Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Laphroaig season started for me, so I thought what better way to come back to the channel than to do a Laphroaig Whisky War. So we've got 6 Laphroaigs here today. You will probably notice that the classic 10 year at 40% is missing. Unfortunately I've finished that. I have reviewed it on the channel before though, so if you just type into YouTube WhiskyWars and then Laphroaig 10, it will probably come up. And I've reviewed it with a couple of different Laphroaigs. I've reviewed it with the 10 cask strength recently, and I think I've done it with the Select and maybe even an Ardbeg 10. But that one's missing today, but the cask strength is here. So we have the Laphroaig 4 Oak, which is a travel exclusive, which is why it's in the bigger bottle, and that's a 1 litre bottling of Laphroaig. And that's aged in, obviously, 4 oak. It's 4 different types of wood, 4 different casks. And we have the classic ex-bourbon barrel. We also have quarter cask finish, European hogshead, and virgin American oak, which I've not had in a Laphroaig before. So it definitely intrigued me, so I got that. We have the Select, which is also at 40%. This one is part of the core range, so it's easily accessible. And it's usually available for around £23–25 in the UK. The triple wood, I believe, is discontinued now, so you might not be able to get your hands on that, or if you can, it's last stock time. This is aged in 3 woods instead of the 4 oak in 4. This is 3. It's quarter cask, ex-bourbon, but also Oloroso sherry cask, and that's going to be the dominant note there. And it's also bottled at 46%. It was part of the core range, I don't believe it is now. We have the 10 cask strength, which is the classic 10, just amplified. We have the Laphroaig Law, which is, the cask strength is bottled at 57.9%, so the strongest by quite a margin here. And we have the Law, which is bottled at 48%, and a combination of finishes in the Law. We have quarter casks, but I believe the quarter casks are of a higher age than the standard quarter cask, which is the final Laphroaig here that we're reviewing today. Both are bottled at 48%. The Law though has, I believe it's 7-year-old quarter casks. It has some older Laphroaig in there. I think it could even be some 21 year in there. It's got some very young spirit in as well. With the ex-bourbon barrels. It's also got a lot of sherry influence in there as well, Oloroso cask finish, along with I believe 1 or 2 other finishes in there, and the Law is basically a blend of different whiskies, aged together, married together. I have reviewed this in the past where I've gone into a lot more detail on it. I'm not going to go into that much detail here just because there's 6 whiskies and it's going to take a long it'll be a really long video if I do, but if you want to know more in depth about each one, I have individual reviews of all of these Laphroaigs here in front of me on the channel. This will be more, they all have obviously the classic Laphroaig DNA running through each whisky. I'm not really going to be commenting on that in this video. That's more for the past reviews that I've done on the channel that go into it in more detail. This is more basically trying to inform you about the differences between each one. So if you know you like Laphroaig but you haven't tried a couple of these today, hopefully you're going to find a little bit find out a little bit more about the individual differences between each one, and it will just make that buying choice, the buying selection, a little bit easier for you. So we'll start off with the 4 oak. So right away, I don't really pick up much of the quarter cask in this whisky. And when I was looking at the finishes, we have European oak, which is actually quite spicy, very woody. And American virgin casks, they're really quite spicy in the wood department, and I'm not really picking up much on the nose of that. Also the quarter cask influence, for me that gives a very rich, intense taste to a Laphroaig that I'll comment a bit later on when I touch on the triple wood, the law and the quarter cask itself. And it's very subtle, it's there but it's subtle in this 4 oak. For me I would say this whiskey is the safest drinker. If you're new to Islay and you want a Laphroaig, but you're a bit nervous about committing, the 4 oak is a good option because I think it's the safest drinker. It's the least intense, it's the least rich. Some may say a little bit watery, but I'd say the least rich. And really all you're getting is a little bit of wood spice and a more subtle Laphroaig. Obviously the classic notes, I'll quickly touch on it now and not throughout the video, but the peat, the salt quality, that brine quality, it's smoky, it's earthy, it's medicinal, and there is a lovely vanilla sweetness that runs through each and every Laphroaig. But to distinguish it, I would say a little bit of a wood note, but it's not particularly strong or intense. It's a very easy drinking Laphroaig, if that's possible. Okay, on to the select, which I actually recommend for quite a few people to go and buy, since it's the cheapest Laphroaig out there to date, and it's a lovely drinker, to be fair. So both of these are non-age stated whiskies, but very different on the nose. You're not picking up the wood quality that you get in the 4 oak, but you are getting a stronger nose on the select than you do the 4 oak. And for me, I do like to compare it to a little bit of a creme brulee note. It's just a little bit of that buttery, sweet, burnt sugar note. But don't go thinking this is incredibly sweet, because as I've mentioned, they all share the key Laphroaig DNA, making up the majority of the whiskey. This is just the finishing differences that I'm talking about, and it does make each whiskey very different, but it's not a sweet whiskey. Compared to the rest, I would say it's quite sweet. It's a nice easy drinking whiskey as well, partly because they are 40% whiskies, but you get more flavour on the select than the 4 oak for me. Less of the wood note, so if that is something that you like, then the 4 oak would edge it. But I do think, especially for the money, the select is the winner of these two, because a little bit of sweetness, it perhaps turns the Laphroaig into a bit more of a daily. These two are the easiest drinking of the Laphroaigs that I have here today, in general actually. But with this select and that creme brulee note, you are getting quite a big heap of medicinal quality to this. A TCP note that's really quite strong, and a little bit of menthol coming through as well. Okay, onto the triple wood, which is at 48%. So we're getting a bit of a proof jump here, and the most different of the three so far. Incredibly sweet on the nose. Again, with a pinch of salt, but not really, because these are peaty, salty whiskies. But imagine you have that peated saltiness, but coated in a really thick syrup, molasses, red wine jus. It's very sweet, it's very rich red fruit forward, and it's lovely. It's got a really nice jammy quality to the salt, so you're getting a little bit of a salty sweet touch. I love this on the nose, I think it's amazing. You pick up a little bit of the quarter cask influence on the nose as well, And what I really mean by that is, for me, what I envision when I smell quarter cask influence on a Laphroaig is an antique wood library, a little bit of wood varnish, with that antique old library smell. It's lovely. But the dominant, that is more of the subtle nuance to this whiskey. The dominance is going to be that rich red fruit. And then on the taste, you get a little bit of a role reversal. That quarter cask influence is really pushing up to the fore, adding a little bit more of a spiciness to this one. That wood influence is far stronger than on the 4 oak, and but it doesn't feel as intense because of that rich red fruits. The sweetness pulls it back a little bit. It's lovely balanced Laphroaig. And I'll actually I'll do the cask strength last. I'll jump to the law now, since this has quarter cask and Oloroso sherry cask in there. And Laphroaig do say this is the richest of the rich, and they're not wrong. This is the richest Laphroaig that I have here today. It has a large portion of this sweetness, but it's not as sweet as the triple wood. If you're thinking which is sweeter, the triple wood is definitely sweeter. It's got a lot more of that Oloroso sherry influence. The law really has a stronger quarter cask note than the triple wood does. But also there's just a hint of maybe a tropical fruit note, and for me personally, I think that comes from the older Laphroaig in this whiskey that I don't actually have, so I can't comment too much on that. But I do get just a touch of maybe a papaya, just a touch of a tropical note right in the background of this that does separate it from the triple wood, and I'd imagine that's where it's coming from. But the quarter cask is stronger. It's richer. It's got more of that varnish that I was talking about in there. The taste is beautiful. It really is. So I think one of the main differences here is the triple wood, just going back to it then, has a little bit more of a wood spice to the whiskey, but the quarter cask influence in the law is stronger than it is in the triple wood, which might not make sense to a lot of people because I'm talking about two wood notes, but they are two very different wood notes. This is very much a wood spice that I would call maybe like a sawdust, quite prickly, sharp, comparative to the law, where it's a bit more of that quarter cask wood, which for me is more of that antique wood library, that mahogany. Still coated in rich red fruits, but not as much as the triple wood. And now we'll go to the quarter cask. So the quarter cask is also bottled at 48%. It's also a non-age stated whiskey. They all are so far. But this one does not have any sherry influence in this whiskey at all. And incredibly different on the nose. Very different experience. In fact, this one might be nice to compare to the 4 oak, because I'm getting a similar experience but much stronger on this quarter cask. For me, along with that classic vanilla, I'm also getting a hint of pear in this. Now that could just be me, but for me I do get a hint of pear on the nose on the quarter cask. It seems far lighter than the two sherry Laphroaigs. Certainly not as rich, but that doesn't mean that it's not as good. Yeah, that vanilla and pear come through on the taste. The wood spice is there, but as you would expect, possibly the strongest in that quarter cask influence, since the whole whiskey is matured in quarter casks here, whereas only part of it is in the triple wood, and I'd imagine a little bit more is in the law, or it could just be that the quarter casks are aged longer in the law, so they're more intense. But the quarter cask, it's all quarter cask, so you're getting far more of that wood spice, that antique wood library, with no sherryness, no sherry influence in that, and it's really pulling this apart from the two other whiskies. This is not sweet and salty. It's not a balanced Laphroaig. This is a very intense, salty Laphroaig, with a little bit of sweetness coming from vanilla and pear, not any sort of rich red fruit. And just going back to the 4 Oak. Again, different on the nose, but like I touched on earlier, a bit more of a sawdust coming from the 4 Oak, and a little bit weaker. The quarter cask, a bit more intense, a bit more powerful, and that wood influence is not it's not really a wood spice, it's not really a sawdust, it's very much more of an antique wood varnish. For me, I always say old library, but that's what I get. Old books, old wood. It's a far better experience than the 4 Oak. So 6 Laphroaigs for you today. If you like the video, please drop a like on the video, and comment down below if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps the channel out. And just quickly going over the 6, I'll say that the 4 Oak is going to be your least intense Laphroaig out of all 6. Now, that might seem really underwhelming to some, but Laphroaig is a very intense whiskey, especially if you haven't ventured into the Islay region before. You're getting a very smoky, peated, earthy whiskey, and very salty. So I know I haven't really touched on the Laphroaig DNA or an Islay DNA or anything like that, but it is majority of those notes. So the 4 Oak, a little bit of a wood spice, but the weakest of the 6 here today. And it's a travel retail. You can buy it outside of travel retail though if you want, but it is a little bit pricey. I believe it's around £50, £55. The Select, also bottled at 40%, but it's around £25. This one's giving you a little bit more of that menthol, TCP note, medicinal quality, but it's also bringing a little bit of a different sweetness to this. It's less woody, but it's got a little bit more of that creme brulee sweetness to it, burnt sugar to it. The triple wood is sherried. It's the most sherried of the 6, so you're getting that big rich red fruit dump in there, but it's also got a little bit of a quarter cask influence in there, which really does stop it from getting too sweet. The Laphroaig Law is a little bit of a merger between the quarter cask and the triple wood, but far more rich, and it has a little bit of a tropical fruit quality to it, which I suspect is from perhaps a Laphroaig 16 or perhaps an older Laphroaig. The quarter cask, all aged in quarter cask, very rich, very intense, very woody. This is the most woody of the 6, and rather than the 4 Oak being woody but not very strong and intense, the quarter cask really is. It's very much in your face, with a little bit of sweetness coming from a little bit of a hint of pear. And now to finish up on the 10 cask strength. This is going to be the saltiest of the 6 for me. as you would expect, this is a bit of a powerhouse. The 10 cask strength would be the powerhouse of the 6. It's the saltiest of the 6. And this is going to be the closest to your classic Laphroaig, which is the Laphroaig 10. It's just a lot stronger, and a little bit different. And you'll see that if you check out my past review of the 10 compared to the 10 cask strength. They are more different in flavour than you would think. It's not just stronger, it brings other flavours to the table as well. But for me, the 10 cask strength is not my favourite. For me, I would actually say, I think my favourite, especially coming into autumn like we are now, heading into maybe even the winter, I definitely tend to go more towards the Law and the quarter cask, and that is that quarter cask influence. The Law just gives it a little bit of richness and a little bit more fruity than the straight up quarter cask does. But there is a price difference as well between the two. The Law is £70 in the UK, with the quarter cask being around £40 on offer. It's had a little bit of a price increase from when I last bought these Laphroaigs, so I think I saw it for around £45 full price. The last quarter cask that I bought, this is actually a new one, the last one that I bought I got for £32 on offer. It's now £40 on offer, so they have crept up in price, but I do think overall Laphroaigs are a great Islay to buy. Possibly my favourite Islay. I love the Laphroaig DNA, and they do tend to be a little bit more affordable than Lagavulin and Ardbeg and other Islay whiskies. So for me, I didn't actually say my favourite. I think right now it's possibly the Law, but I think bang for your buck, it's going to be the Laphroaig Select or it's going to be the quarter cask. And I'm just, at this time of year, I'm going to go for the quarter cask. So this is my winner today, the Laphroaig quarter cask. And if you like the video, please like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel by clicking subscribe down below. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching.